Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, along with the XRP price chart. Take a look over there at the stock market as it gets ready to open up here in 29 minutes. Take a peek over there at gold and silver and oil and maybe the dollar, I don't know, the VIX. And then we'll wrap it up by taking a look over there at any type of crypto news or financial news as we kick off the halfway point of the week. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and we are officially at the halfway point. So happy Wednesday, everybody.
It is Wednesday, my dude. It is Wednesday,
All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in on this fine Wednesday. I hope that you're all holding up well. Markets have been pretty tame here throughout, the past couple of weeks. Still the kind of the same story. Lots of volatility and geopolitical narratives, but crypto is still holding up strong through all of it. Really, after capitulation taking place in the first half of February, we're now in the latter half of March, getting ready for April to come in next week, and prices are still just remaining stable throughout the crypto market. Seems like we're kind of on repeat here on the channel, kind of saying the same thing over and over again and finding different words to be able to say that in. Just continuing to kind of point to the fact that it does seem like we have already capitulated. It is just in accumulation schematics and, lots of various shapes those can take. I saw Ripple Revered had sent in a super chat earlier. Let me read this. It says, hey, what's going on, BCB? I hear a lot of people anticipating lower lows, which makes me rather bullish. And then he says, I also did some Degen UFC betting, not my proudest moment, but I came out on top and accumulated some algo. I don't own any algo, but I can comment on the first half of that part. He says, I hear a lot of people anticipating lower lows, which makes me rather bullish. I've been through multiple bear markets here in the cryptocurrency market. Most notably, this is about where I entered here into the crypto market around Easter, a little bit before Easter of 2017. And went through the 2018 bear market, and of course went through the 2022 bear market. And the best thing we can do is just kind of look at it from the lens of what is it like getting into a bear market? What are those things that happened in here? Right, we have pretty classic signs of the things that happen when you're in a bear market. But then by the time we end up like capitulating and everything gets really bad, the entire crowd then swaps over to being bearish. But the thing is, we don't have like a exact formula on what an accumulation schematic will look like or exactly how the bottoms are going to end up playing out. We can kind of just like look at all of the technical signals, look at the on-chain behavior to say, are we in the region where a bottom can form? And that's why we look at like the on-chain stuff. And then we look here at these technical things on larger timeframes, like the 2-week and the 1-week time frame, which I've got this down in here just as a reminder for me to show you the 2-week time frame here in a little while. But none of our bottoms have looked identically the same after we've gotten capitulation and after these things have pulled down to the low. We can go back to 2014, right? We capitulated, then it just Wyckoff accumulates, but never ends up taking out that low. 2018, it capitulates. It only stays down here for 4 months, and then it does a full 702 Fibonacci retracement, and then it consolidates again, right? Crash, retrace, reaccumulation, then it heads out. And then in 2022, we do get the new low, right? But in the two prior, like in 2014 and in 2018, when these environments came up in here, we didn't actually set a new low. But in 2022, we did. So we always have recency bias. We're always going to look to the past one and say, that's what it's going to do. Unless, of course, if we're at the top, then nobody wanted to look at this. Everybody was looking at that. I won't go there again. But So, everybody's, of course, anticipating, can we get something else like this? I totally think it's reasonable. I've said, like, if if it does set a new low, my thoughts are probably around 53,000 is where I think it would be, but I'm not like hanging my hat on it like it has to actually happen, because a lot of times we get these types of conditions and it doesn't. We could Wyckoff accumulate sideways for some time, and then in the spring phase there's a liquidation in here to hit the on-chain levels. That'd be rough, because that would mean we would have to kind of sit here for like 6 months before we would end up getting that. I don't think anybody truly wants that. But yeah, whenever we get into the depths, and like, the reason I say I was here during this is because I've been through the sentiment shift of this. This one in particular is where I really kind of documented my emotional log. And if you've been with this channel a while, you've heard me talk about my emotional log. I think I've brought up a lot of stuff from the emotional log on the channel historically. I've written about it in my newsletters, kind of like giving excerpts from my actual diary. And these are the darkest of moments, and you always feel like it's going to get a lot worse. And that's what that's what the broader market participants believe, because like we've talked about, like typically sentiment of the crowd is typically very delayed, right? And I've never seen a top nor a bottom where the crowd was right. They're always anticipating higher. They're always anticipating lower. They're always very off sync with what's happening with the market. And people, want to chastise me as the enemy for doing that, but it's really me just kind of like giving you some alpha to say, hey, look, running with the crowd at tops and bottoms will always be wrong. A lot of times the crowd's going to be right when we're roaring together, but it's always going to be when the reversal comes, the crowd will always be wrong-footed by the top or the bottom. And so that becomes tricky, because if somebody wants to play the contradiction side, right? If you want to contradict what the crowd is doing, it doesn't always work, because we can all be bullish together in a rising market and then be bearish together in a bear market. So it's not like 100%, but what is always 100% is that they're always going to be wrong-footed at the top and they're always going to be wrong-footed at the bottom. But it doesn't mean they'll be wrong-footed in between, if you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, the crowd may be anticipating lower. I don't think, based on chain, you can see the argument, because we haven't gotten to on-chain losses hitting where most are upside down. We got to right to 50-50. So historically, we in this one right here, we got a little bit above 50-50, right? It's not like it was an exorbitant amount of a difference, but it was, it did at least cross. This one right here, we touched the 50-50, then we exceeded the 50-50. And so right now, it's we've kind of touched the 50-50. Do we have to set a new low to do it, or do we just have to run sideways for 6 months and then have a Wyckoff spring event at the end? For example, one way that the crowd really got wrong-footed in 2022 through 2024 was with Binance Coin, if you guys remember that. Let me see if I can pull up BNB. Do you remember everybody on crypto Twitter screaming Binance Coin was going to be the next coin to pull an FTX collapse? Whenever I've edited my thumbnails for the videos, it's not anymore because it got changed, but this happened for almost a whole year. When I come on and create a video thumbnail, when I edit it in Photoshop, I always pull up an old model that I've used and then kind of reiterate it. It's why you kind of always see kind of the same color format of what my thumbnails look like on my videos. But this is the one I would always edit. It would be the Binance Coin one. And this is, of course, this is Wyckoff accumulation. That takes a long process in here. And then it takes having the spring phase come in here for the crowd to be screaming that Binance Coin is going to go to zero, Binance Coin is going to FTX collapse. And so psychologically, sometimes it just takes us getting to that part of accumulation for sentiment to absolutely get ravished and, deteriorated. So when we're looking at Bitcoin, we're talking about it in that form. It's kind of been it doesn't have to set a new low, but it could take a Wyckoff accumulation schematic with the spring phase at the end to have all of the on-chain losses get hit here without a new low actually getting hit. And so I can't rule it out that that's it. I think if we do set a new low, my guess is 53,000. But I don't have all my marbles in it, obviously, by being 50, having put 50% of my cash in that I want to put in. But I have to keep some sideline just in case it does, because I think it's reasonable. It could set that new low. It's just definitely not not guaranteed. And again, nothing is guaranteed, but we're trying to like place confidence levels on it. My confidence level is certainly right at 50-50. It's like, I do think we're at accumulation happening in here. It's happening everywhere. The crowd is totally fine. Now, everybody's comfortable saying the word bear market now. It took February 5th for people to finally start saying the word bear market, for the content creation to finally start saying bear market. And it's typical. In the reason why I was able to like forecast that and say that type of stuff and say narratives is because I've been through these before. I've been through the psychology of all of them. I've seen the script play out over and over and over again. And we're now at a phase where it does seem like accumulation. It seems like bottoming structures. Problem is, we don't have a very specific format to say, here's exactly how it's going to play out, because they are all very different in here. But what we do have as a format is to say, this is typically where we build it at. How exactly it's going to build is the complicated, difficult part. And so hopefully it makes itself more clear in the coming weeks. And but somebody said in the waiting room before the live stream went live, are we going to rip to the upside? Are we going to break down, or are we going sideways? And of course, right now it's team sideways, everybody's favorite. And typically team sideways, that's where you're kind of seeing like we talk about different levels of different types of capitulation, right? Some of them is like panic driven price capitulation. Some of them is jealousy capitulation. An example of jealousy capitulation is people maybe dumping their whole bags and chasing Solana after it ripped back in 2024. That would be jealousy capitulation, selling everything to chase something high. And another one is time-based. So the longer we sit down here with this pull down in here, the more pain people feel and the worse it takes. And the market knows exactly how to make people capitulate. It oftentimes is not some singular event or moment that happens. It's a buildup of time. It's a buildup of impatience. It's a loss of faith. And that can happen over an extended period of time. And many times once people have thought it's still a bull market for a long time, and then finally you get this, you pretty much get convinced, okay, wait a minute, it wasn't a bull market. So now the only logical step is to think it must go lower now. However, these are the thoughts that we've had in here, is that, these are kind of the areas that we would be heading back to. And so I can't like fully agree that I think it has to, but man, I do have to preserve some capital in case that 53 comes. And if that 53 comes, I'll definitely be at 80% entered into the market by then. And so, that's kind of my thoughts. Otherwise, I kind of have to sit back and kind of, wait. Like an example of something like this where Netflix, right? And going back to Netflix back in 2022, right? It ranges, breaks the high, and then shoots for the high and then collapses on itself. I think of a lot of it like this in here. And it's very difficult to say, are we already here, right? Like, did we just do that right there? Is the market going to get completely tricked? Are we going to do the climb of the wall of worry? And that's going to be what we enter into, right? So like we've talked a lot about market psychology and things like that. Once we start climbing and the real climb is actually happening, it's going to finally be a moment where nobody believes it, right? It's going to be a worrisome climb the whole way up. Nobody will have faith in it. Everybody will be scared to touch it. We saw that in 2023 and 2024. I think it took until October of 2023 for the 12K calls to stop, right? We topped in November of 2021. It took until October of 2023 for the 12K calls to end. So, yeah, I do think it's possible, but I don't think it's mandatory. So, these are the things. And while we're in this team sideways thing, the best I can say is just try to calm emotions and be like, look, we definitely thought we were in a bear market. We've definitely gotten a lot of the behaviors of what happens in bear markets. So that was all correct. Now it's about accumulation. And will it set a new low? Hard. Very hard. So, all right, there you go. We'll move on. My last video, I think I talked a lot about total total the same thing, right? You've got a lot of those same behaviors of what happens after a capitulation occurs in the market, right? This is the capitulation in 2018. So we're not just looking at Bitcoin, we're looking at the market as a whole, right? Any time that we've gotten into the lows or into oversold on the total market cap, like at this moment right in here, the altcoin market had already bottomed there by June of 2022, right? And the market bottomed, altcoin market bottomed here in December of 2018. Now, what's interesting, of course, is the altcoin market double bottoms here in March of 2020, and then it double bottoms here when FTX collapses in November. But these were the bottoms. So, will we double bottom? Reasonable to think it could, but for those looking for like some major collapse to come from here or major new lows to get set in here, you don't have a historical basis to go off of with the technical indicators of where we're at to imply that it would. If you had to say, the on-chain stuff and with where we're at, if we're going to hit the on-chain numbers, it seems more logical that it would be like an accumulation schematic that does something like that, where it's like a spring event or something like that that gets it to hit, which would suck because that essentially means we have to wait months on end. But until this market shows its hand, this is kind of what we have to deal with, right? Again, we've shown these things over here on XRP. Again, bear market, classic bear market behavior. The thing is, right, it's now, right, like Ripple Reverend said, people are looking for lower prices. Not going to sit here and argue it against it to say that they won't. But it's once the crowd starts believing that, right, it takes a year and 3 months of falling, right? A year and 3 months of reduced strength. Then everybody's in agreement. Hey, we got to go lower now. We got to go lower, right? It's like, okay, well, like, are you trying to catch this moment right here? Is this what you're going for? Like, ignoring all that, but it's like, no, we got to go there. Like, I'm gonna chase it, and maybe it'll pan out, but good luck, right? So, but again, like, right by the time we get to these things, is it time to like be playing bear, right? By the time we get to here. Is it time to be playing bear anymore? No, right? It's time to be looking for accumulation schematics, building positions, and looking for things to turn back up. Not financial advice. Do whatever you want. Market's very risky. You can lose all your money. All right. So as we get ready for the stock market to open, Russell 2000 at 2534, about flat. The Dow Jones up 427 points. The S&P is up 55. So the Dow and the S&P are up about 1%. So is the NASDAQ. It's up 1%. It's up 232 points. Lots of volatility over there. Of course, we've got right now currently just a back test happening over here on the Russell 2000 from the 2021 high. It would sure be poetic to be able to get some type of ricochet off of this high, whether it has to build a support here for a while, and then that ends up becoming our launch pad to be able to send crypto. We're still waiting on IGV in here. I've left just this chart looking exactly the same for an expanded flat, which typically ABCs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's still the missing puzzle piece in here would be the fifth wave. And then within this third wave, of course, we have a very clear 5 and then rolling back up to wave 4 within wave 5. The correlation, of course, here with Bitcoin and with IGV is just undeniable as a software sector. So it's still just that thing. Will Bitcoin set a new low if that happens? Will Bitcoin Wyckoff accumulate in spring? And what will happen in an event like that? It's still just like an unresolved thing. But still, we continue to point that this is what bottoming processes look like, and whether it does this and this and this and this and this, right? Very possible, and what I think is most probable. So, all right, moving over to gold. Gold has been taken a pretty big hit this week. So every week I kind of update what the title of Markets in the Morning is. It's typically always the exact same thing, which I'm sure, what is the title of this? Market 325.26 for Bitcoin, and then I put the XRP price, I put the Russell, I put gold, and I put the dollar DXY. I think gold was at like 48 or 4,900 last Wednesday when we got together. So there's been a pretty big knockback in here. We see more weakness, right? So this is the weekly time frame in here. Weakness showing up in here on the monthly time frame. Weakness showing up in here, right? There's like absolute insane bull run, right? It doesn't mean it's not going to set a new high with a bearish divergence happening in here, but this momentum of insanity in gold does seem to be waning. I still think we can roll up here and set this new high, but I don't think it's as strong as a bull market as it once was. And those are conditions, of course, that we have to have for the cryptocurrency market in order to see like a rager happening in here. So, all right, there you go. Not a lot to say over there on stocks, except that they are up. Oil, everybody's calling for $200 oil a week or two ago. We're back down to 87. So hopefully this thing can kind of chill out in here. Oil is like a cascading effect of emotions of what happens to people in the market, right? If you have high oil prices, that leads to higher inflation expectations, which then leads the Fed to having to be more restrictive to combat inflation, which leads to liquidity reductions, which leads to risk off, right? And risk aversion, right? So you just look at oil and you think, oh no, but there's a chain reaction, right? And so if oil goes down, what happens, right? Well, oh, good. Inflation's not going to be an issue. Oh, good. That means that the Fed isn't going to have to be restrictive. Oh, good. That means that we aren't going to have liquidity issues. Oh, good. That means that we can have more risk on, right? So oil skyrocketing isn't necessarily good for markets, but taming out is much better. So long as it just continues to remain here, excelente. VIX, this is still the thing. Macro markets happening in there. We still have a lot of volatility happening in stocks, right? We're down 400 points in the Dow today. We're up 400 points in the Dow today. We almost just are getting immune to it at this point because the volatility is so extreme over there in stocks. Normally, during normal everyday life, a 400-point move is a big move. It feels completely normal right now because volatility is very high in markets. So we're still waiting to see if we're going to have like a big volatility event, which, right, get that moment to happen in there. But it is still a patience game. So there you go. Team Sideways for the win. Team Sideways will not have their day in the sun for forever. But we see these things happen all the time, and we just have to kind of remain patient through them as we deal with it. So, all right, there you go. Very clear, as historical examples set by this market imply, we are in bottoming and in accumulation. They take various shapes, but this isn't the place. Historically, this isn't the place to be scared. Historically, these are the places where opportunities are made. Historically, places to be scared are when we're creating bearish divergences and beginning to cross, like we did here in 2021 and 2022, similarly to how we did here in the latter half of 2025. Getting down into these environments historically is where it's better to be a bull, right? So, again, looking at this on like the 2-week time frame, because I know I'd put that there, show that. Just to show, like, there's still all the arguments out there. This isn't, I don't know, the gaslighting. If this isn't a bear market, we can move to the 2-week time frame and see these things in here and what bull markets look like and what bear markets look like, right? So if we move the MACD into log scale, we can see we stay up in here during a bull market, right? Then we collapse and capitulate. Once this thing finally breaks down, we've capitulated to the bottom of a bear market, right? We could see that right throughout here, right? Otherwise, we may remain sustained to the higher side, right? We move over here to 2021, right? We stay here. Notice this orange line remains here until we capitulate, right? Once we capitulate, finally, we lose it all, and they move down together to the lows and hang out at the lows. And then, of course, over here in 2025, we can see that we hold these in 2023 all the way till 2025, and then now we break down into capitulation. So historically, by the time you get to the point where this orange line, right, falls down on the 2-week time frame, you're at an accumulation level, right? So in a larger time frame, we can justify it at the same time just by looking at the indicators here that by the time this gets down here, we've capitulated in this market, right? Everybody's just debating, will you get that? Will you get your FTX style moment? Or will everybody be looking for it and it never comes, right? Or it never comes, right? So we're just going to have to wait and find out, everybody. But very clear what very clear what bear market capitulations end up looking like. And we're in it. So there's always a bright side to it. Like where would you rather be? Man, it would suck to be right here right now and looking at it thinking you got a year and 3 months left in it, right? It would suck to be here again like we were 6 months ago. Right? I think it was September 25th was the date I was like, hey, I'm doing 33%. Yeah, which would have been 6 months ago today. 6 months from the October 4th video is obviously about a week away. And in that video, very clear said, I'm going to look back on this in 6 months. And would I forgive myself if I didn't take action? And I said, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I could forgive myself. So GG. But yeah, otherwise, you know, it would suck to still be here, right? Where would you rather be? I'd rather be looking at this through the lens right now, being like, hey, look, it's typically going to get pretty soon to up only in here. These things just do take time, and they're just not consistent and the exact same every single time. So, all right. Heading over there to news. The recession odds climb on Wall Street as the economy shows cracks beneath the surface. The Dow futures jumped 500 points as report of U.S. peace plan for Iran sends oil prices lower. Treasury yields tumble as Trump talks up Iran ceasefire plan. Oil prices fall as Iran signals safe passage for non-hostile ships through the Strait of Hormuz. What do we say here? Mortgage demand drops more than 10% as rates hit the highest level since October. And over there to crypto news. Ethereum devs up security efforts with new post-quantum team. Rising U.S. Treasury yields, war in Iran, rising inflation risk pressure the Bitcoin price. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. The price has gone sideways since February 5th since all of this stuff has happened. Congrats to the headlines, traders. All right, federal regulation looms as 11 states go after prediction markets. I believe that. I won't go into detail on my thoughts on that. Banks want to run Vietnam's crypto exchanges. Okay? As mass adoption approaches, crypto has forgotten its roots. Questionable on how mass adoption is going to be. We've been kind of saying mass adoption for almost a decade now, but forgotten its roots, definitely. Definitely. Bitcoin's battle for 70K continues as data shows traders avoiding bullish positioning. Trader says Bitcoin's still due for the next leg lower, targeting the 46,000 Bitcoin price. Well, this is good that we have a number. How many people here, like, what's always interesting, like, what we've been looking for, and I still haven't seen it out there yet, is, like, what number is everybody looking for, right? Obviously, like, 12K is a meme, because it was, for some reason, the number everybody was going after. I don't know if we have one right now. Has anybody seen one? No? 40K? You think so? I just don't see it come across my timeline. The most I see is 45 to 50K. That's what I'm just reading it. I'm reading a post. That's not what I see. But all right, Bitcoin value off the chart as Bitcoin price metric hits record lows in 2026. Bitcoin spot volume falls to 2023 lows as Bitcoin rallies remain news-led. Bitcoin rebounds to 71K as oil drops after Trump signals pause on Iran strikes. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously this whole region right here is very interesting just to be at that area, right? But then, like, you get into, like, Elliott wave stuff, and then you get into fib measurements and things like that. Like, predicting and guessing what the literal bottom price is ridiculously difficult. You know, we got to the 200-week moving average, obviously, in 2018 and 2014 and 2018. But in 2022, obviously, we crept below the 200-week moving average. So that was always, like, the meme bottom, just saying 200-week moving average. Well, we've already gotten to the 200-week moving average right now, right? So everybody's kind of like, all right, there's a chance that's not going to end up being the thing. Let's do this one. Right, so, like, we pretty much hold it, right? back in 2014, pretty much hold it back in 2018, 2022. It's just like, we don't care about you anymore. And that, so the stress, the post-traumatic stress of all of that doesn't give anybody faith in the 200 week anymore. It's something nobody points to any longer. But, predicting the actual number for it to get to, like, it's not like it even reached back down to there, right? Where it comes back down in here to 15,600 or whatever. I really don't know. Like, if it sets a new low, I really don't know what what the bottom will be. But everybody's got to guess, right? And give a silly number on what they think it is, right? So an Elliott wave, in an expanded flat corrective wave, right? Essentially measuring it out. It can land anywhere in, like, the middle point. I can't remember exactly what the middle point is here between 1 and 1.618. Maybe it's 1.309. Just making that up. I don't think that's really right. Hold on, we can do this. Hold on. It's a 1.272, right? Fib level. That's it. I think we saw that on Ethereum, right? Let me do that before I continue this random rant I didn't plan on doing in here. Let me do that. And then we'll go over here and we'll use one that I'm not using. Right, that it gets down to the one. I wonder if that does get to 1.308. Let's just throw a random one in there. I don't want to mess with that. We'll do that. 309 is what we said, right? That's exactly what it hits, 1.309. So it goes halfway. But in here on, let's see, what do we get on here? It's essentially already gotten there. I know, guys, you're having to be patient with me because this wasn't planned. I try to plan everything before I talk on the stream. I didn't plan on this one. You're getting to see the process of how things work when I discover things, and then they end up getting shared on the channel later. But yeah, I don't agree with that, so I'm going to take that off. So essentially, what do we end up getting? A 1.618, right, of wave 5, right? And then we have an expanded flat happening in here. We haven't quite gotten there, right? That number gets you it's right at about 53,000. So I don't know if you can see that. This is 53,020. My guess, the meme number I came up with on my X was 53,045. What's also interesting about that number as well is that also lands you at the 702 of our past range. They kind of line up right on the button. Then it also ends up being where there was resistance. There was resistance. And then there was support. Does it seem logical? 53,000. If it sets a new low, that would be my guess. And if we got there, I'd be at 80% entered in the market if that ended up coming. So anyway, that's my guess. Range low, measurement, expanded flat measurement, and then it also happens to land on the 702 of our past range. So we end up getting support in here. You get a precise measurement from here, and then you also land the 702 of the past range. So you kind of get it all. So will that be the lucky guess? If the 200 week doesn't hold, that'll be mine. Okay. Ethereum so it's at 2189. There we go. Here we go. We got a green market. So, all right. I feel like I'm rambling at this point. We've kind of already gone through everything. BC Adventurer says, bro, what's the latest on the fish tank? Well, the fish tank is still going. You know what it is, man? It's like I find new hobbies, and I like always like transition between my different hobbies, like that I share with you guys, right? It was like coin roll hunting, right? Then it was drumming, right? Then it was fish tanks, right? Then it was gardening. So the fish tank is still there. The fish get fed. The population may not be as strong as it once used to be of fish in the tank. All of my plecostomuses, I have 3 plecostomuses. Those are all still there. Otherwise, it's just been, there's only 5 different species that live in the tank. There's plecostomuses, there's assassin snails, there's a lot of shrimp, there's guppies, and then there used to be mollies. None of the mollies have made it. I found that they were the weakest out of all of them. And I was able to keep mollies alive for years and keep their breed going, but it felt real. It was real difficult. They just didn't make it. But you know, it's still doing its thing. So, all right, give me just 1 second. Okay. I just don't have as many. So, like, you know, gardening is a thing, right? We're coming into spring right now. I started a lot of figs from, and I won't keep this going because I know half the people here don't care. I propagated a bunch of cuttings last year. So last year was my first year of like growing them. Now, like I've got more established ones in bigger pots. And so now they're flourishing. And so that's really exciting for me right now. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, we'll hop into the chat. Again, Chieftain, thank you very much, man, for starting the stream off strong with 50 gifted memberships. He does that every stream. I'm so grateful to you, brother. Thank you. And then right out, here comes Home TV 537 gives out 50. Home TV, did you used to have a different screen name? Like, I wouldn't be embarrassed if like you've talked into the chat, like it just, or if this is you're just coming out swinging, man, first time. Thank you, brother. So you just see it flying through the chat. Everybody's getting gifted something. Man, thank you. Ripple Reverend, I had answered your question earlier, brother. He asked about people anticipating lower lows. It's typical in the accumulation phase that everybody's going to be looking for lower prices. Joshua. BCB, I learned from past cycles. I've been all in XRP and ADA. My thesis for this cycle is 50% Bitcoin, 25% ETH, and 20 XRP, and 5% others. I think that's a very logical play. All right, here's going to be the curveball we all have to deal with. Here's the only thing that's going to be the curveball. The Bitcoin dominance never fell. Pi, what's up, bro? Okay. Dude, thank you. Yeah, that's going to be the hard part. Like, I fully agree with that. Like, in a standard recovery, totally. 50% Bitcoin, 25% ETH, 20% XRP, 5% others. I think that's like nails. Solid. I think the curveball we're going to have is going to be that Bitcoin dominance. But don't really know. But I would agree with your plan. Millman, what's up, man? 9 months. Any thoughts on massive Ethereum buy volume on the 25th of February? Am I wrong to view it as a secondary test as it's equivalent to February 6th automatic rally? Let me get everything off of here. We can look at it clearly. Volume, daily. February 25th. I don't think there's anything to read into that. No, I don't see anything in particular, Millman. X speed spec. I'm buying MicroStrategy instead of Bitcoin. What are the accumulation zones? I don't know on MicroStrategy, man, because I don't truly understand the MicroStrategy product. So I don't know how much they dilute that product when they're doing shares, sells, and everything like that. And then what there's like ancillary products that go along with it that pay dividends, and it's too complicated for me. And so I don't know how to understand MicroStrategy. I think you have to have like a master's degree in whatever that is. So I don't know, man. I don't feel comfortable saying like, frankly, we're there, right? Like, this is just simply put, like what we're talking about with the Bitcoin price. Like, you're there. You're like in the accumulation zone. I should get this off of here because this is from that. So where are we? We're over here. All right, this is 2022. Let's go like this. So that's where it breaks down. That's where it breaks down. Right? Ranges and then goes into oversold. Right? Ranges and goes into oversold. I think you're in it. But your problem is, will you come back down in like a spring and slam back into 108, 109, which is going to be a 30% drop, a 25% drop from where it's currently at right now. So I don't know if you have like a one-shot entry, just same with crypto. I don't know if it's a one-shot entry on crypto or if it's going to be a longer accumulation happening in here. And so that's kind of, if there isn't massive dilution of that product, right, which I don't understand it, it's at a level you would expect to be able to hold. Matt Smith, my brother, just a kind super chat. Thank you very much. He says, thank you, BCB, for all that you do. Grateful for you. Thank you, brother. I saw you had a DM come through yesterday, the day before. I didn't get a chance to read it. Let me read it real quick. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. We'll see if any super chats about that come through, right? I'm sure there will be. Hey, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. BC Adventurer, bro, what's the latest on the fish tank? Okay, yeah, I read yours before I went in order. And then Pi had said, thanks for all what you do, goat, and then drop the 50 bomber. Thank you, man. Ripple Reverend says, thoughts on the Clarity Act? No. It would be the perfect thing to like what if everybody YOLO buys the passage of the Clarity Act, and then it's like the next week we get the spring, right? We get the liquidation, right? Like everybody gets caught off sides right there, right? Like when you have an event that everybody's like anticipating to come up, right? It's like the worst way to invest, right? We all know that. If you have something that you think you're front running, and then by the time that thing happens, everybody's like, I'm front running this because when this passes, it's going to moon. But it's usually not that, right? You're usually going to climb until that thing happens, and then things get wrecked. So I wouldn't be surprised if we like get that thing to pass, and then like a week or two later, boom, we have the big hit. And doesn't necessarily have to set a new low, but it's like a liquidation, gets the on-chain losses, something like that. I don't know. Like narratives are so ridiculously hard to predict, but I don't look at it and think it's going to change any of this stuff. You know what I mean? just like at the top, everybody thought none of this stuff would matter because of all the narratives and all those things coming down the pike, which I just don't think mattered, right? We ended up, here we go, we got the Russell back test, we had to pull back, right? We have this correlation happening over here in software. These are the things that all matter. I think if we get this and software recovers out of here, I just don't think, maybe it's like good narrative wise, like heading into a bull run, but does it matter like right when it passes or something like that? I don't think so. Pi says, what's the percentage we sweep the lows again on XRP? I don't have a number for you, man. I don't have a confidence level to tell you on what I think the percentage probability is that we end up sweeping the low. The best I can tell you is I do think we are forming bottom. We remained bear the whole way down. We nailed it. I put it into a video last week kind of showing step by step how we got to where we are at right now. We just don't have anything consistent to say, hey, is this going to end up being this type of accumulation schematic versus this type of accumulation schematic? Or even worse yet, right? What if it's neither one? What if it's like Bitcoin from 2018? What if it's a retracement? What if it's like that? Brutal. But I think the major thing I would think, right? Paying attention if this happens. And I think it will. I think it will happen. But paying attention during that and like reading the market at that time and saying, it looks like we're here while this is here. And does that mean we are not going to sweep it or we're not? And like, I have to say this too, okay? Like for real. And we all know this, right? We could think it's not going to do it. We could say, hey, look, everything looks good. But this market and the participants in this market and the amount of leverage they use in here, you can just have a liquidation, right? We can just all be minding our own business and some liquidation happens and boom, it nails it all, right? And so that's like just as time has gone on, those things have just gotten worse and worse and worse over time. And so we always have to know in the back of our head that risk exists now more than ever. That there's the surprises of those big liquidations. Now, obviously, if you followed this channel in October, we weren't surprised of that liquidation. The October 10th liquidation was not a surprise. I laid out all the outlines showing, hey, whenever this happens, it often leads to a liquidation. I even have a tweet saying that, right? 2 days before the liquidation here in Markets in the Morning, I said, watch what happens to this market. Pay attention to this market over the next 48 hours, right? It was a little over 48 hours. I think it was 56 hours after the live stream. That's when the massive liquidation ends up happening. So that wasn't a surprise, but we know those events can happen. That doesn't mean I'm always going to, I can tell you right now, doesn't mean I'm always going to be able to see that coming from a mile away. So, but those exist. So chances, odds of it sweeping, I don't know. Like right now, what does it look like? I mean, it looks like secondary test of Wyckoff accumulation, right? It doesn't look like we've gotten a secondary test of phase B, but I also don't want to be fooled by it. If it's gonna, if it's gonna go for it. But right now, I mean, you can see it, right? Looking pretty secondary testy, right? So we'll see. Sorry, brother. I wish I could give you an answer where I felt more confident on like which one I thought accumulation wise was going to happen. Just this early into it, I don't know. I totally think we're in accumulation, right? I've outlined it over and over again on why I think we are and why we should be. In accumulation, right? And even like we talked about in the 2 week, right? Flip this over to log. Right? By the time the orange line falls down, and by the time we go over sold, that is our bottom. By the time the orange finally falls, that's our bottom. By the time the orange falls, It's our altcoin market bottom. But Bitcoin did go from, in the 17s to the 15s. I think everybody wants to know, will that happen? I don't know. I don't know if that will or won't. But has the orange gone down? Yes. Right? It's all the way down. So, we can just look at this on all different types of time frames, and it tells you you've reached where accumulation is. But everybody wants to nail the literal bottom, and it's just so hard, right? And you have to look at, like, even me. It's not that I'm nailing the top or nailing the bottom, and I didn't nail the top in here, right? Like, this is where 1/3 goes. This is where we get to half, right? What's my average at? It's like right there, right? We can even move it down a little bit. It's like my average is right there. And then on February 5th, start buying, grab some in here, but I also accumulate in here. So like my average, say it's like right there, right? So it's not like a nailing the bottom. It's not like a nailing the top, but it's just kind of catching the whole meat of the move in there. Everybody wants to be the guy who gets the literal top and the literal bottom. It's just very, very hard to do. You just have to look at the context and say, do you think the meat of the move has already been completed? Based on all technical behaviors in here, it implies the meat of the move is completed. Our major question overhang is, will the on-chain losses set one more push? And because that's all it would need, right? It's gotten so close. And does that one more push mean we set a new low? Or does that one more push mean that we have to run sideways for 6 months and then do a spring with a liquidation and get them then? Until it shows its hand, we are going to play the team sideways card on repeat. Abe the Brave. BCB, thoughts on the circle stock? Panic sellers, question mark? Well, it rose so aggressively. I'm thankful that it's coming back down. I'm hoping it can get into the 60s. I know people who fully loaded their position wouldn't want to hear that. But I missed my full position. So I will take it coming back to the 60s. No, I mean, it ran out of steam, right? I didn't pay attention to the news to see. I think finally something came out on questionable on whether or not they'll be able to divvy out interest to like retail holders or whatnot. So, there's a huge gap here. It's a huge run. I mean, this is over 100% push in a matter of 2 weeks. It's not going to go in a straight line up. So now we're looking for it to kind of accumulate. I would expect it to at least get down to 86. We'll see if it can kind of form some type of support in there, and if there become more signs on a shorter time frame to imply some type of something. But you could see in here, right? It had lost its strength. Here's the 4-hour time frame, right? Right in here, the strength was lost. So this move that happened right in here wasn't like out of the blue. The strength was already gone. The bid support was gone. But big gap down here. I hope it doesn't take 3 months to get there. We'll see. But no, not panic sellers, man. Over leveraged FOMO buying probably caused it. JJ Jacob, why are you against leverage? 2x can be safe because you take profits earlier rather than holding too long during a bull market to the bear. Yeah, I just don't ever mess with leverage. There's multiple reasons why I don't do it. One, I don't want to promote that type of behavior because it does become more of gambling in the casino. And I don't want to push any of that type of behavior. I don't want to do that. Because 99% of people do take losses. 99% plus end up taking losses. Also, if you used 2x leverage on October 10th, you got fully wiped out. Fully wiped out. You lost, your entire account got swept if you had only 2x leverage on October 10th. So I don't have the desire for that. It may be, I remember when I was younger, right? And like, dude, like, look, man, there's times where I'll take risk, right? Like stupid risk. But I do it with like a little amount. I just don't want to risk a large port in there. right? And like even your big accounts, all your favorite influencers you follow, like, dude, they all get liquidated, bro. They all do. All right. JJ says, thoughts on gold in a crashing structure about to move into wave 6. It seems kind of suspect given the position of software in BTC. You talking about here? I mean, maybe. Where are we at on silver? Didn't we have like these were the lines I'd put on here? So last week, silver was sitting up here, right? To Wednesday, March 18th, right? $79, right? They could just do that, right? So essentially, it kind of just right there's your wave right there, wave 4, and then it'd kind of be the same thing, maybe. I think it's chilled out though. I think it's chilled out for a little while. I don't think it's like going into a full blown bear market for silver or for gold, but it doesn't have to go into a bear market. It just has to like calm down. And like on the monthly time frame, you can see that in there, right? This thing's been rampaging like this since October of 2022. That's the biggest pushback. So even if it just ranges for months on end, historically that's better for crypto. Oh, dude, my bad. Ripple Reverend. Let me go back and find it. There you go. There we go. Sorry, man. Would you ever consider another Bearable Bull collab? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. But I haven't gone on any live streams. I haven't done any collaborations with anybody in a while. I've been like kind of on my one man show for quite some time. No reason in particular. You know, when I'll probably stay like that for a while too. See, Bearable Bull was cool with me though. Like when when the fall was happening, he was like retweeting and being like, people need to apologize to BC Backer and stuff like that. A lot of content creators buried a hole for themselves over the last 6 months. But just by going after me during all of it. And so it's people that I was cool with, everything like that. And I don't know, man. This was again a reiteration of why I don't have sponsors on the channel. With content creation, when you have sponsorships, they're looking for returns. They're looking for results by spending money on your channel and for you to advertise for them. And so you have to keep positive messaging going in order to appease the sponsorships, in order to get the links to get clicked on and all that different type of stuff. So, I do think I just can't believe in my heart of hearts and lives people didn't think it was a bear market unless one, completely caught by cognitive dissonance, or two, they had gotten themselves trapped by you're not bullish enough at the top. They need affiliate link clicks, or they're stuck in like a sponsorship or something like that they had to keep the messaging going. I just find it so hard to believe with the overwhelming amount of when we're in here, at least. I mean, okay, fine. Here, fine. But after the liquidation, the October 10th liquidation, blatantly obvious. And then in here, blatantly obvious. I find it very hard to believe that these people who have been influencers through 3 cycles just plumb ignore it. Plumb ignore it and say it doesn't matter. So, Bearable Bull, all good with him. Yeah, I got no problem with him. I have no problem collabing with him. There was a lot of nonsense that happened here in this last 6 months with these content creators. So, okay. There we go. We hit the 1 hour. What do I end it? Let's end it on a positive note. How about that? Because we don't care about them. Again, reiterating these things right in here. Everybody does want to know, are we going to set a new low? I don't know, right? Like I just kind of keep saying the same thing over and over again, that it's accumulation schematics in here. And I can't tell you if I have a strong opinion on new low or new high, new low or long-term ranging in here. This has just been what we've mapped out leading into this type of environment, knowing that this was capitulation. I still remain with that same messaging. We've seen capitulation. We've seen high volume, oversold conditions. On-chain numbers have gotten very close in here. But predicting how, if a new low is going to come or not, it's very difficult to know. I'm 50% entered with the capital that I'm bringing into this market and just patiently waiting for the market to give me a clue. Here's how you should deploy it. Till then, I'm just like, look, if this market rips to the upside right now, I'll be great. I'll be happy with what I have, and life will be just fine. If it plunges down to the lows right down in here, boom, I get the opportunity to be able to grab it. If it has to run sideways for a long time, this is typically where the crowd will again capitulate a second time, and then I would just go ahead and deploy it all right there and call it a day. Till then, as we sit right in here, it's very difficult to make that judgment call on what to do with it right now, outside of saying, we've already capitulated, we've already gotten massively oversold in here, we've already gotten to these points in here like we see on the 2-week time frame. To show these things again, we're looking at these things on these bigger time frames to show. Let me do this too here. Look, like right there, that's where you get to the low. Right here, where do you get to the low? Here. And here, I don't need to do that. No, you're all right there, right? Where we have that, right? After your bull market, your bull market, your bull market, your bull market, right? Once this thing lets go of itself, right? By the time it gets down there, that's where you're marking low. That's where you're marking low, right? That's where you're marking low. So that's where we are. And so it's just, the thing is we don't have any consistency in here on what the accumulation looks like until something really strong starts to form. So we have to remain patient, but still keeping that messaging of this is where we are. We're through the worst of it. We just got to get through it together, and we'll end up getting there. There we go, dude. Not Oscar says, morning amigo. I heard you were looking for me last week. Is everything good? Yeah, everything's good, dude. Just seeing if you're still hanging out. I think like we're in like this period of the market. Obviously, we could see just in viewership numbers right now, right? We're at 1,400 people here right now. This is depths of bear markets, viewership levels for markets in the morning, right? And so a lot of people are just kind of minding their own business and doing their own thing, taking their attention away from markets right now. I'm just saying, I was like, hey, I wonder if not Oscar Hernandez is in here right now. You were not, sir. But you got a life to live, right, man? So I appreciate you showing up, dude. Ripple Reverend says, it was you, BB, and Darren Moore Jr. that changed my mind forever. I will forever be thankful. Yeah. And I haven't commented on the Darren Moore Jr. Stuff yet. I don't know if it's part of me being in denial on it really happening, or I just couldn't believe it. But, I've had lots of private conversations with him for years on end. I did a live stream with him and King Solomon, and met him in New York City during the proper party. Prior to the proper party, it was like a pre-party to the proper party. And unfortunately, about a month ago, he passed away. That was very sad. I just didn't want to believe it was true. I was like, no, it's got to come from a more official source to find it out. But all right, there we go. We were supposed to be positive. How did we get here? Okay. There you go. That's where you're at. That's where you're at. We'll keep this messaging going until something very clear shows up. Again, big time frame. That's where we kind of have to keep our eyes out right now. These are the things I can show you. These are the positive things going on in the market, and that's where we're at. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Let's get you the frog before we head out the door. Hit the like while we're doing this, right? So while I'm playing this, you can smash frogs all you want. But if you want to close the live chat, hit the like button, then click back on live chat. You'll be right back before the frog song is even done.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday,
Dude, you know what else I need to start doing? Because I don't do this. I need to start doing this. Number one way to support the channel is to hit the like button. The reason I say that is, of course, it helps the algo. It helps get the message out and makes all my work come out to the light of YouTube, because, of course, they don't do that if you don't have any type of engagement. But I never ask for people to comment on my videos, right? I never ask for that. But that's like the super thing for YouTube. So maybe I can remember to do that. Let's try that. Here we go. Because you can't comment right now because it's a live stream. The only thing you can do is the only thing you can do is chat. But on the videos, if you ever wanted to just leave a message and say, "What's up?" That's cool, because that helps the channel too. George, I'll just answer you and say yes. Okay. That's it, guys. Check out the newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Most recent one's 28 minutes. There'll be another one published there next week. Otherwise, let's see if I'm going to attempt this outro and attempt the comment thing. So here we go. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment on all of my videos and live streams. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.